Good morning. My name is Don Michaelman, and I want to welcome you to the April 11th meeting of the Prescott Planning and Zoning Commission on that. I would like to have the commissioners introduce themselves, and we will start off with Jim.
Good morning, Jim Klazuski. Thank you for coming. We look forward to your input.
Good morning. My name is Tom Hutchison. Nice to see you all.
Good morning. My name is Tom Riley, and there's 5 of you out there, and 2 of you are employed, and 2 of you are employed by the person who put the submittal in. So all the input that we're going to get today, I am going to relish.
Good morning, another Tom Davis.
Good morning, Jim Whiting. Thanks for coming.
Good morning, Susan Graham.
Also like to recognize Ted Gambogi from the City Council as our liaison here on that. This is an open public hearing and is being videotaped by the city. The proceedings are being televised by representatives of the public media, the public and local cable and/or radio stations, and may also be rebroadcast. The number of commissioners present is 7. It will require a majority vote of those present to pass a motion. Members of the public, when called upon, are required to state their name and address for the record so that we may know who is speaking and be able to contact them later if necessary on that. First item action is dealing with the minutes from the February 29th meeting. Are there any corrections? I have one. Tammy, we talked about this. I believe in the meeting there was a question asked of the applicant that is he going to leave the land vacant between his mini mart and the property owners, and he said he was. Would like to have that in the minutes on that, okay?
Good.
Is there a motion concerning the minutes
So moved. Move to approve, Tom Riley,
with a change?
as amended.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second, Tom Davis.
We have a second. Motion is seconded. Any further discussion? If not, Sarah, will you call the roll then?
Commissioner Riley,
Approved.
Commissioner Graham,
Approve.
Commissioner Whiting,
Approved.
Commissioner Davis,
Approved.
Commissioner Hutchison,
I approve.
Commissioner Klazuski,
Approve.
Commissioner Michaelman.
Approve.
Passes 7-0.
And the Toms have it.
That's going to be a long day. Next item is PLN 24-001, a preliminary plat of Ponderosa Meadows Townhomes, a 20-unit subdivision on approximately 2.62 acre parcel, generally located on Sally Lane south off of Bertrand Avenue. Zoning is MFM, multifamily, medium density. Property owner, Ponderosa Devco LLC. Applicant, Don Allison. Tammy.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman, members of the Commission. Tammy DeWitt, Community Planner with the City of Prescott. So this is a preliminary plat for the Ponderosa Meadows Townhomes. This is not being brought to you because of the water policy. This is actually the process that a preliminary plat would actually go through. So they already have water that's been allocated a while ago. This was originally being planned for apartments, but the applicant has decided to plat those to become townhomes so they could be sold individually, hence why a preliminary plat is in front of you today. The plan is for 20 units on 2.62 acres, and the zoning is multifamily medium density, which allows for this type of development in that zoning district. So here's a zoning map that shows that this is a little piece of multifamily medium in the middle of single family. I didn't look when this was rezoned, but it is zoned multifamily medium density, so it is allowed for the apartments that were proposed or for the proposed townhomes. Here's the subject property. It is currently vacant. They do have an engineering permit right now to be putting in the infrastructure because this was going to be apartments. So they've already been working on this for a few years. So the infrastructure is already going in, and they have an engineering permit for that. Here's the proposed layout for the preliminary plat. So Sally Lane is not a road, it's a driveway. Somehow it got named. We're not sure how that happened, but it is Sally Lane. But it is a driveway, it's not a road. So what this shows you is that there are easements on the property for the access, and these are the individual lots. They meet the setbacks because they were reviewed as apartments. So all these proposed lots meet the setback requirements for the zoning district. The front is up north off Bertrand Lane. That would be considered the front of the property. So all the setbacks are fine on this lot. So this is a kind of show you a little bit more detail. It was not in your packet. This is from their engineering permit. This is their site plan that shows you the main access comes down through the middle of the property. And then it has a turnaround for the fire, gives access, and there's plenty of parking that's required for each lot. And then as you see to the right there is a secondary access onto Park Avenue, which gives a secondary. It is an ingress-egress easement. It could be used as a secondary or just for emergency, which was required for the fire department. This was reviewed for a preliminary plat, all this development criteria. Like I said, it has been reviewed previously for apartments, so it does meet all the requirements from all our reviewing agencies, and there were no issues or concerns with this being platted now. So this concludes my presentation. I'm free to answer any questions, and the applicant is here to answer any questions.
Questions?
Mr. Chairman, Tom Davis, I have a couple. Thanks for the clarification. I went by there and the grading was going on and didn't know why that was ahead of time, but thanks for that explanation. One of the things that I had noted on the site plan was there's easements that go, that 3 of the units overlap. And so I'm wondering what those easements are for, and that are they going to be abandoned or whatever the case. And that's 10A, 9B, and 9A are on top of an easement.
It looks like it could be a utility easement, but that's been addressed with the engineering permit and with all their other permitting they have.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't see the note that says abandoned.
It's in such large print.
Yeah, all the notes say easement to the city not to exceed 15 feet. That's the ones I was reading. So
Probably for sewer and water, and so, but those have all been rectified with their engineering permits.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Tom?
Yeah, I have a couple questions, Tammy, as you are probably well aware. First of all, what are we approving today? Why are we here?
You're here to approve a preliminary plat. So this has already been laid out for apartments in this configuration. So what's going on now is they're platting those individual units so they could be sold separately for ownership. Right now, as apartments, it would only be rentals, but with the platting of it, after the preliminary plat's approved, then we have a final plat, and they'll create individual lots so each of these units could be sold separately.
So those buildings that are depicted there are lots?
Yes, they're units. So it's a condo plat, which are a little different than a regular subdivision. So you're just platting the building envelope, and then the rest is all common area.
Tammy, weren't these originally to be apartments in
Yes.
the same site plan at that time? So the site plan hasn't changed.
No, the site plan's not
The
changed.
Ownership or the rental of it's changing.
This will, yeah. So once each unit is platted, they can be sold for individual ownership. Rather than renting, they'll own it. They can own it.
The other question I had was, when did this become a PAD, a planned area development?
Well, this plat will be creating it as a planned area development.
Well, that's a change in zoning, isn't it?
No, it's not. It's done via a plat. So the way the city of Prescott works, you can create a plat to reduce the setbacks and the lot size requirements. It does not change the zoning. We'll just have a PAD at the end. It notes that the plat was for a planned area. That means they have open space, they have common area and such. So this meets all that criteria.
Well, I look at my handy dandy book,
Yeah.
my land use book, and I look at multifamily, medium density. There's setback requirements that clearly this does not meet.
This does meet that because each of the units are set back from the property lines. So with a planned area development, when you do a condo plat, which is basically what this is, they're condoizing the apartments. The walls become the property lines. So, but you don't have to, the units still have to meet the setbacks for the zoning for how far away they are from the outlining property line, which it does meet. There's 7 on the sides, 20 in the front, 20 on the south. So it meets all that criteria. And each of these units will just be with the building, that's all they're platting, or the buildings. So the ownership will be of the building. And this is very common. I mean, this is a condo plat. We've done this before, and this gives a different type of inventory for the city. So instead of having apartments, we have townhomes for ownership, which we are looking for different types of inventory like this.
Well, look, I visited the site yesterday, and, the first question was, how do you get in and out of this? If Sally Lane isn't a road, if it's a lane.
It's a driveway.
It looks like from this picture that ingress and egress is off of Sally Lane. Is that correct?
Well, to each unit. So each of the unit is off of the driveway. So the driveway comes in, that's Sally Lane, that comes down through here from the north, south, in the circular. That's a driveway that goes to each of the units.
Okay, so Sally Lane is the front?
Is a driveway.
It's a driveway.
So it's not a designated road.
Look, I watched a machine literally grinding out granite about
They have a
10 feet
permit.
away from a neighbor's house with smoke and noise and all the elements necessary for domestic violence. And it was clear to me that this was way, way, way too close to that house.
It's the driveway, and a driveway can be right adjacent to the property line, which you do see that here on the north. That driveway coming down is right adjacent to the property line, and it can go up to the property line. It's a driveway.
Unit 10B is right on top of a house. It's very, very close.
And it has a 7-foot setback from the exterior property line, which is required for this zoning district.
Well, if that's a side setback.
Yes.
Okay, how about hang on a second. How about 2A?
Yes, that's 7
4A.
feet. That's 7 feet off the property
That's
line.
the rear.
No, that's the side.
How
So
can that-
Bertrand is the front. Bertrand's the front of the property. And then the south side is the rear of the property. So that all that along there, the east and west sides, they're sides.
We're arguing over whether it's a hot dog or a hamburger. It's either one or the other. What's the front of the building?
It doesn't matter what the front of the building is because these are just townhomes accessed via a driveway. So the front of the property is Bertrand, the north road. That's the main road. That's a road. Then the south along there is the rear of the property. And then on the east and west, those are sides, which is what would be required of them being apartments. Because these are just platting the buildings themselves, they meet the setbacks for the zoning district for each of those lots.
If you use Bertrand as the front.
It is the front. Because the front is off a designated road. Since this is not a designated road that goes through the property, it is a driveway maintained by the HOA that this is how these are laid out.
So the front entrance, how you get into these buildings, is on the side, is what you're telling me. It's really a side entrance, not a front entrance.
Well, the parking spaces are in front of the buildings.
I mean, don't you find that incomprehensible?
No, this is very typical for these type of products.
It ain't the front, it's the side. The front's the front, the side's the side, and the back's the back.
Tom, it's the plot itself. It's not the building on the plot.
The lot is the building now. They already told me that.
No, that's not a correct.
Mr. Chairman, if I could perhaps help a little bit. So one of the things that zoning, our land development code typically does is we approach the front side rear determinations based on the lot, not the buildings. Buildings can be faced any way they want on the lot, and we often have properties where the buildings are faced to what would appear to be the rear of the property because there's an access easement at the back. Due to topography, it's often not possible to actually get into the property from the street that the property fronts. You come in the back through an easement, an alley type of access. In this particular case, the property boundaries, the exterior boundaries of the lot are as Tammy described. They're the exterior boundaries, not the individual buildings. The buildings can face any direction that the developer wants to face them within the property. So per the question that Mr. Hutchinson is asking, the answer is actually yes, that you can have the fronts of the buildings facing somewhere other than the front of the property for access purposes, and it still meets our zoning code as long as the setbacks from the exterior property are met.
George, what would the mailing address be for these buildings?
Most likely it will be a Bertrand Avenue address.
Good, yeah. If it's Sally Lane, then we got a problem.
Again, per what Tammy told you earlier, Sally Lane was kind of, it was probably created as a name for mailing address purposes because there was a small house down in one corner of the area that had no connection to any other property and had an easement that ran up to Bertrand for access. And I think they probably named it to give them a mailbox and an address. Does that make sense? Kinda.
Tom?
I have a question. If I understand correctly, the buildings that are depicted on this particular plot have already been approved as apartments. Is that correct?
Correct.
So what we're looking at here, the only difference between what's already been approved and what we're looking at is we're platting the walls, the exterior walls of the buildings that have been approved so that those can be sold separately.
Correct. And we're doing this before they actually get the building permits because they have to meet different building and fire codes once they have that property line. So those ones that are connected will have to meet different building requirements for fire and such once they're platted than if they're apartments. So they're waiting to start building these till this is all platted.
Okay, so the only difference between what we're looking at and what has already been approved is basically paperwork.
Yes.
It has nothing to do with the physical situation or anything like that.
Correct.
I do have another question, though, if I might. On at the very south end, this is a pain in the butt to have to keep pressing this button. On the very south end of not the plat necessarily, but the engineering drawings, there is the words retention basin or retention detention basin. And when I look at the topography, there is no basin there. It just keeps flowing off into the adjacent lots. So I'm wondering what's going on there.
And I'd have to defer back to the engineering permit to see what was approved with their
That's already been
engineering.
approved.
Engineering's already been approved for this, and
Okay,
they
then
got their
I
engineering
withdraw the
permit.
question.
Yeah.
Other questions?
I have just a follow-up to the whole discussion here. Are these going to be condominiums or fee simple lots?
They're sold as like condominiums. This is a condo plat, so to create those, and then they have the open space, the common area that's maintained by a property owner or HOA, a condo association.
The way they're described, I mean, graphically, it appears that they are the fee simple ownership of that envelope. So that's not the case then.
I think I'm confused what you mean by fee simple.
Well,
They own the space in between the walls. I mean, they own they'll own the unit. That's it. They don't own
maybe
the
the applicant can clarify.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's pertinent to the question, but a townhome can be a fee simple ownership or it can be a condominium.
Hello, I'm Gary Kelly with Kelly Wise Engineering, 146 Grove Avenue. We did the engineering for this, so backing up a little bit, you were correct that easement goes through 910. That has already, there was an existing sewer main there that came down through that easement, and we rerouted it down the road and back between 9A and 8B. So that sewer that you're seeing that will be abandoned, everything that's not gray on that plat is common area open space for utilities. So that answers that question. Tom's latest question, Mr. Riley's question on the detention, there is detention behind basically 5, 6AB, 7AB, 8AB. There's also, we're intercepting water from a culvert that comes underneath Bertrand, and we're putting a 36-inch pipe, and we have an easement agreement with the church to the south of us, and we've built the storm drain all the way to Aspen Creek. So we're taking the off-site drainage that came into Sally Lane and running it to Aspen Creek. So the detention basin that we got on the south side of the property, there's a wall that acts as both retaining and screening between our property and the church. The wall holds the water together with the one image that you had on the engineering showed the cut slopes behind the units. You can see it north of where that open white space is on the south property line. All of that is retention, and it goes into, it meters and releases it back into the 36-inch storm drain that we have crossing the church property to the south.
So
As far as the units go, I don't know if you have sheet 4 of the actual preliminary plat, but I think it's in your packet, and it dimensions each of those units. Units 1 and 5 are the same. Units 4 is a separate fourplex. The rest of them are duplexes, and you see in the packet the 4 different styles of buildings. It should be page 4 of 4 on the preliminary plat that I think is in your packet. And that, it's the same gray footprint that you're seeing on this sheet. If you purchased lot 1 or unit 1, you own everything in gray right there. If you purchase 2A, you own everything to that black line that's between 2A and 2B where that common wall is, and that's what she mentioned. Now that it's different from apartments to townhomes, that wall has to be a firewall. That's getting out of my realm. That's into architectural stuff. But so you would own the footprint of what you see in plan view here of either unit 1 or 2A or 2B or 3A, 3B. Everything outside of that footprint is open space, and collectively the HOA will maintain that road. That road there is 3 homes to the north of 10B that are on the west side of, quote, Sally Lane. And they're existing homes that access off of Sally Lane. We'll be paving that drive to that turnaround. So everything north of Unit 10A there's 3 homes that front, quote, Sally Lane. But Sally Lane will be our private drive with that turnaround, and then there's the emergency exit that you could also get out to park to the east where that little flag ends. That's actually over at Park Avenue, just north of the church property. So is there
Thank you, sir.
any more
Any-
questions?
Any other questions?
Yeah, regarding Unit 10B, did the owner of the home, this I guess is to the city also, did the owner of the home right adjacent to that off of Sally Lane, right up in the corner by 10B, was that person notified?
Yeah, actually, everything north of 10B that's on the west side of Sally Lane is the same ownership as on the east side of 1, 2A, 2B, 3A, 3B, 4A through 4D. That's at Pine Acres, isn't it Pine Acres? Pine Acres. They own both sides. They even had stuff on the east where they sewered into the sewer we've been talking about that crossed our property without easements. All of that's been handled between developer and current conditions, and we've replumbed their sewer into the new sewer alignment, and we're stubbing them a water main where they used to just cross our property to get to those 3 homes I'm talking about. We put a new meter in for those 3 homes. So to answer your question, yeah, Pine Acres has been working with the developer for this improvement project. They're fully aware of the concerns you've had as far as the excavation and the work that's ongoing right now has all been coordinated, obviously, with the city for permitting and with the developer, with adjacent owners.
Question for Tammy and George, I guess. When did this get approved as an apartment complex? Did it come before this board?
No, it's allowed by right by the zoning. So there was no need to come before this body. It was a couple of years ago. This has been in the works for about 2 to 3 years.
But planning and zoning's never seen this.
It's not allowed, not required to come before the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Other questions of the applicant?
This might be for Tammy. Just wanted to clarify on record, because I know you answered my question. Jim Klazuski, by the way. The difference between a condo, townhome, and patio home is condos, you don't own the land below you and the air above you. So what we're saying is this project, the land underneath the unit is not owned by the person who owns the unit, correct?
No, what's been explained to me, they're going to own from the ground up.
Other questions?
Okay.
I have a couple, sir, before you go. Are the buildings going to be sprinklered?
I can't remember. There's no sprinkles in the building.
Just curious.
No. No, apparently individual building sprinkler systems are not required.
Okay.
But
The emergency access over there, when I was looking at the property, seems to have some good-sized rocks in there. Are those going to be cleared out so a truck can get through, fire truck can get through?
well, everything you see in gray on that image is completely, it's 24 foot wide and that radius of that
No,
hammerhead fits the fire truck.
I'm looking at to the right, going over to Park.
Oh, that emergency exit's
Yeah.
also 20 foot wide fire lane. That
They'll
gets
take
you
the rocks out of there because there's some good-sized rocks and boulders in that
Yeah, they
part of
must-
that section.
I mean, even before they did anything out there, I could drive my truck through there, so I'm not sure what rocks you're talking about. But that's always been a gravel trail that led
True.
out to Park Avenue.
But
So
the
you
size
must,
of
maybe they've placed some rocks there as construction's going on. I don't know.
No.
You'll have to meet all the fire rating.
Okay, so the fire department's going to look at it to make sure the trucks can get through.
They did when this was approved, yes.
Well, I can see approving ahead of time based upon doing it. I just want to make sure it is going to be done.
Yes, Chairman, I'm Don Allison, the applicant. And yes, that's an all-weather road access that will go to Park into the development for emergency access. It's used right now as an access for some of the rental properties on the east side of this project. And as Gary indicated before, the ownership for Pine Acres on our east side, that's a rental community. Those three houses on our west side of Sally Lane, there are also rental units there as well. And the rocks there are rocks on our site that will be removed. as you come off that access in park into our community.
Thank you, sir.
Well-
Any other questions for the applicant?
Don, I have a question for you. I'm curious, what was the rationale for changing this from apartments to condos?
Well, really, it's a paperwork issue, but it's driven partly by the market that we're in right now for the world of finance. There's different financing mechanisms and products for a for sale product than there are for rent product. But it also played into the fact that it brings more diversity of housing to the downtown area. It gives us flexibility to sell the individual units and or rent the units, both. But initially it started with financing is where it really started from.
Well, I'm sure you're aware that Prescott desperately needs housing.
Yes, correct.
So apartments makes a lot more sense than, in that regard, than condos.
Well, Prescott needs all types of housing, and both rental as well as ownership. And this site here, too, I mean, it was when we acquired the site, it was currently zoned medium density, multifamily. We could have constructed a traditional apartment building there, 3 stories tall with much higher density. But given the nature of this site, even though there's rental on both sides, the highest and best use in our eyes was to keep it lower density, more of a single family type feel, single level properties. And so that's what we did. And so at this point in time, it's just a matter of, I guess, renaming the project and going through a different set of building codes to go condo versus multifamily. But in essence, the units and everything is consistent with what we originally presented and what was approved by the city.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for anybody? Is there a motion concerning this?
Mr. Chairman,
Tom?
Tom Riley, move to recommend approval of PLN 24-001, preliminary plat of Ponderosa Meadows Townhomes.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Well, I have a question first. Do we not have an individual from the public that would like to make a comment? No? Okay.
Good idea.
Sorry.
Motion, any second?
Susan Graham, I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Sarah?
Commissioner Riley,
Approve.
Commissioner Graham,
Approve.
Commissioner Whiting,
Approved.
Commissioner Davis,
Approve.
Commissioner Hutchison,
I approve based on the need of housing in this city.
Commissioner Klazuski,
Approved.
Commissioner Michaelman.
Approved.
Passes 7-0.
Any staff updates?
Actually, I wanted to bring up the general plan. So as most of you know, that the city of Prescott has been in the works for the last couple of years updating the general plan. We are starting to wrap up that review process. We should have the last reviews done in July. And in August or September, we're going to be starting our 60-day comment period. And then after that 60-day comment period, that document will be coming before you first for a study session, and then we'll have 2 meetings. So those should be starting in October is what on our schedule. So come in October, and we'll make sure to get it ahead of you, get it to you ahead of time, so you have plenty of time to review the whole document. It is a different format than what we traditionally had for our general plan. It's going to look more like a book and more user-friendly. It's more digital, a lot of links, hyperlinks and such. So we're really excited, and we have a consulting firm to help us design it. And we're really excited about finishing this project up this next year. So that was all.
Procedural question. Since 3 of the P&Z commissioners are in the general plan, which side of the dais do we sit on when it's presented to us?
You'll be fine. It's just a recommendation. So you're going to be fine being on that side.
Before we go to adjournment,
Can I ask Tammy a question?
no,
General plan.
no. Go on.
It's okay.
Tammy, will we get a chance to look at the final draft before it goes out for comment? The committee?
The committee does in July. You'll see the final
we'll see the
version.
final, yeah.
Back to my original one. This is the last meeting that Sarah's going to be here with us. And I want to thank her for the time and effort and the work she has put in to help us do what we're supposed to do on that. And we'll miss you, and good luck to you on your future endeavor.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, Sarah.